Hello and welcome to our final project open house for the 2026 year. I'm Nick Burgess, the City of North Liberty's Community Relations Director. As we get into construction season, which will get underway shortly and will last until it starts to snow in late November, we've got projects that range from Forever Green Road and Jasper Avenue in the southwest part of North Liberty to the next phase of Centennial Park with the splash pad, as we also finalize designs for things like Ranchaw Way's final phase and, as we're talking about today, the Cherry Street Firehouse. We aren't going to get into projects that are being led by the Iowa DOT, so like the project that is the interchange there at Penn Street, or the city of Coralville, which includes Forever Green between 12th Avenue and North Liberty Road. But we will get into the Cherry Street Firehouse today. You can find some overviews of projects that we've got going on at northlibertyiowa.org/projects. You can subscribe to updates at northlibertyiowa.org/subscribe, and you can email me questions at nbergus@northlibertyiowa.org. We've got some folks on the call today that I'd like to have introduce themselves before we jump into presenting these things. Let's start with you, Brian, and then we'll move to the Shive team with Natalie and Andrew.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thanks for having me, Nick. Yeah, I'm Brian Plotz, Fire Chief with City of North Liberty. Started my ninth year here back in November. And this has been an interesting ride, and I'll go into that a little bit more as time allows. So thanks for having me.
My name's Natalie Uppedahl. I'm an architect with Shive Hattery. I've worked on a number of projects with the City of North Liberty. Right now, I am working with Andrew on the Cherry Street Firehouse.
And I'm Andrew Avery with Shive Hattery. I am a principal and project manager here, as well as serving as the fire station design subject matter expert, working hand in hand with the team, as well as the City of North Liberty, as well as the fire department. Thanks for having me.
Well, great. Chief Plotz, if you want to talk a little bit, when you came on, you are our first full-time fire chief, and I know the fire department's been around for a while, but your job was really to sort of wrangle this thing. Can we talk a little bit about sort of where we've been and where we're going?
Yeah, sure. It's been an interesting path for sure. Back in 2017, late 2017 into 2018, one of the things that I was tasked with was coming up with a strategic plan to provide fire and emergency services to a growing community that had largely a volunteer fire department. And a number of things came out of that process. One of those things was looking at our facilities and where do we need to be down the road. So immediately we started working on this notion of having a second fire station, and that was certainly important. And I'll get to why that was important. But remembering at the time that again we were a volunteer fire department, our numbers looked pretty good. That was 9 years ago-ish already. 8 or 9, and the environment has since changed. And so we started down this path of a certain direction without having a crystal ball, obviously. And as the environment changes, so does the plan. And so full steam ahead, we started searching for a location for a second fire facility, looked at a number of different properties, found a location that is directly across the road from Centennial Park. Purchased that land, and lo and behold, as we started considering what that looks like and how we would provide emergency services, the landscape had changed. And when I say it has changed, it's changed in the realm of staffing. Our numbers started to decrease on the volunteer side. We weren't getting people to answer the pager as fast as we once did. We started hiring part-time firefighters. We started to talk about full-time firefighters, and all of that kind of spoke to us and basically caused us to take a step back and go, you know what, we need to reevaluate what our staffing looks like from 2 fire stations. And we quickly realized or came to the conclusion that we need to figure out staffing for the current fire station first. So the good news is we had the land for the second fire facility. And when we approached that facility or that land, we did so by a number of different means with regard to looking at arterial streets, looking at time analysis as far as from that facility to other parts of the town to the boundaries of the community. And so because those boundaries won't change on the south and the west side of North Liberty, that location still remains a very, very good location for a second fire station. So we had that locked in, but we decided, you know what, we need to pull back and look at other things. Staffing being a major reason. The other considerations were, we were in need of new equipment, whether it's the ladder truck that I've spoken about up to this point, the heavy rescue. We're getting into a lot of different rescue disciplines, and we don't have room on our current rescue truck. Both of those trucks cannot be replaced because of the limitations of the current facility. And so if we were to build a second facility, put those trucks out there, no staffing out there, there's no reason to even buy those trucks. So a lot of things kind of went through our minds as we continued along this path of that strategic plan and subsequent goal setting sessions over the years. Everything was really telling us that we needed to concentrate on the current facility first. That's our foundation. That's in the center of town. That's where we run most of our calls. And so we really needed to shore that up first. And so we took a step back. We got city administration involved and kind of looked at this from a lot of different angles. And it became really clear that for a number of reasons, not only from deployment, but also day to day as we're hiring more and more career fire staff, this fire station was never designed for that. All of the infrastructure that goes into this facility, from the electrical to the plumbing, everything, it was very, very old, and it was never designed for 24/7 operations. So there's a lot to say that we really needed to refocus who we were at the time, get to a place where we have a solid foundation, we can increase our capability, we can grow the department, become a better department before we then expanded the department into a second facility. So that's where we are today. And so next step was to get Shive Hattery involved in a programming effort to determine what the needs were for the current fire station. And so we started that process. And if you're okay, Nick, I'll just keep talking through that unless, is that cool?
I think maybe this is a great opportunity for us to bring in Natalie and Andrew as we sort of, right, you mentioned that, right, it's an old station, it's about 50 years old. And as we looked at that, right, it wasn't built for 24-hour stuff. Again, we love sprinkler systems, and our fire department is all on board with sprinkler systems, except for in the current facility, right, which we've got people living in, and so that's just one case in point where we've got millions of dollars of equipment and humans sleeping, and don't have the facilities to protect them that we expect others to. So let's Natalie and Andrew, let's talk a little bit about sort of what the you guys found as we sort of started to talk about the current facility, and its inadequacies, and sort of some of those options that we started talking about to fix those inadequacies.
Yeah, so the first thing that we did is we took a long look at what the existing facility had going on. Again, as Brian kind of already said, it was not designed to be in use 24/7. They've done a number of modifications to the building as they could. We went through a process that brought in staff. We brought in volunteers. We listened to what everyone thought the current station is lacking, what they would like to see in a new state-of-the-art facility. Then we kind of weighed the pros and cons and what we would be able to do as far as capability and what we would be able to incorporate. Some of the large items that we kind of focused on were making sure that those apparatus bays were large enough. Right now we don't have the height, we don't have the width in the doors, we you know, don't have the ability to clean and maintain the equipment within the apparatus bay. So especially as winter comes around, it's not like you can pull those trucks out and, clean them and all of that. So there were a number of things that we identified during programming. We also analyzed the existing building and the structural system. What can we do to this existing building um, with kind of what we're looking at today versus what we need to accommodate in order to set the city up for the future, right? And can the building take that? Well, some of the, very initial concerns were the ADA compliance within the building. You had multiple levels, and the only way to get from one level to the other is a small staircase. So as far as, any sort of public or anything like that being able to tour the building, it was very, very difficult to make that a possibility. On top of that, if you're, sleeping in a bunk room and you're woken up by an alarm going off and you have to traverse some stairs, that's kind of a pretty serious shock to the system, right off the bat. So we looked at a number of those things. We do have some slides in here that will kind of show as far as the safety of firefighters as well. There are certain zones that we try to employ within fire stations. Again, Andrew will talk a little more about those, but uh, really the process itself was focusing on what do we have existing, what can we do with it, what can't we do with it, and let's weigh the pros and cons of demolishing some or potentially all of that building in order to get us to a facility that actually fits the needs of the city now and the needs of the city as they grow. Um, so yeah,
And, I,
so
and if I could chime in, Ellie, I
oh
think
yeah.
there's also the mindset that we had to set from the very beginning when we were going through the study is that it's very people centered. And what I mean by that is it's a service to the community. Number one, there's always that mission to serve fire rescue, right? But then there's also the aspect of taking care of internal people at the fire department. So it is very people centered on thinking about, what is the quality of life for people that live inside the firehouse? What is the amenities that's available for them for physical fitness and well-being and nutrition? So I think there's a whole aspect of centering around people focus that not many people would expect to hear from, a service to the community. Um, but it's become very prevalent over the last few decades that that's very important, right? We need to be able to take care of our people so that they can respond to the community first.
Well, let's jump into how we sort of solve some of these problems, Andrew, if you're ready.
Yeah, very good. Adelie, please give a brief overview of where we are.
All right. Um, so again, this is just kind of outlining the various projects that Nick and his team have kind of done these presentations for this week. The firehouse is up towards the north on the map there. We will talk a little bit about the Public Works campus in relationship to the firehouse and how our plan for construction has kind of developed. So one of the priorities that we have looked at as far as the firehouse is considered. So the big idea from the city is that this has always been a goal to make this the city services kind of campus, right? So it's very important that we maintain relationships between the firehouse, the police department, and City Hall.
Yeah, so some of the considerations when we looked at the existing site on Cherry Street were highlighted in the following. Chief mentioned about, and Natalie mentioned as well, about the building served its purpose at one time. The fire industry has changed so much over the past few decades that really we need to look beyond that and be flexible in how we are designing this new station. For instance, as you can see in a photograph here, the overhead doors being small in size. So that limits the type of apparatus vehicles that you can station at this fire station, right? The proximity between the doors causes for some concern about safely being able to back into the station, as well as the opportunity for pulling out a vehicle to exercise the lights, look at the instrumentation, as well as when a response call comes in, being able to fully pull out the apparatus, take a look at the surroundings before coming into oncoming traffic, right? We want to make sure that that's a very safe approach when they're responding to a call. Not only for the public, obviously, but also for the individuals that are actually inside the vehicle. Looking at the site as well, it had some limitations on parking, obviously. Um, and the parking that's to the west was very discontiguous from the one from the east. So that's one aspect that we were looking at as well. But as you can see in the orange box, that was the property next to the existing station that we're really eyeballing for a possibility for growth, expansion, and how that was going to come together. We'll take a look at in a second. The existing firehouse, being limited in its size, was really in two sections, right? We had a space to house the vehicles, and then we had the what you would call the station site or the living quarters. Everything very tight, cramped space, definitely out of storage over time. But this served its purpose at one point in time, right? But now, as the fire industry has changed, there are certain aspects that we would like to follow as best practices as designers. One being separation of occupants from contaminants or carcinogens that may be quite frequent inside an apparatus bay area. The reason why that is because the fire department responds to fire structures, and many of the building construction materials of today contain products that off gas during an actual fire situation. And that can get on the actual turnout gear, that can get on the vehicles. And unfortunately, we don't want to have that taken back to the apparatus bay of the station, but we do need to return to the station and properly mitigate those. One being washing down trucks and vehicles, two being a way to where we can actually do decontamination laundry of apparatus gear or of fire station gear, and then getting it to a room where it can be stored so that it's not off gassing, also continuing to inhabit the space. As you can see here, the two halves, there's no real separation between the two besides a single door. And we'll get into that a little bit later on how we solve those situations. This was also showing the limitation between areas is that there's really no focus on growth in this current station or really looking at it. They've had to deal with over time to where, they add in a few bunk areas that they're down at the bottom, but it really is limited in the amount of staffing they can have at the station in the future as well. So just the limitations that we saw overall from the project. Here's some existing photographs of the current station conditions. As you can see, I talked about that pinch point between apparatus vehicles in the actual truck room, as well as not really a clear defined area where we're storing gear. It's all out in the apparatus bay. Everything around it is kind of stored around it. really decreasing the effectiveness of being able to respond to a call, as well as keeping the occupants of the fire station safe moving forward. Just gives you some more uh, evidence here on why we really need a little bit more space in the new fire station to create a better flow around vehicles. As you can see how tight they are to the back wall when backing in. And that also becomes a concern with firefighter safety. The training room is really a multi-purpose room right now, including training operations. It's their kitchen area for the firehouse, as well as some other functions as well. So they really had to create a space where it's just kind of multi-purpose over time, just because they're out of space. The administration area, it's very cramped on top of one another, unfortunately. Had to figure out a spot where you can place a desk here or there over time. But realistically, what we need to do is create a very inviting space as a new fire station is developed, as well as the bunk room area. Having that opportunity for inclusion of both privacy throughout fire stations is very important, as well as mitigation of sleep deprivation. So creating a open corridor area that's a little bit more spaced out, so that people can circulate throughout the space without disturbing those actually inside the bedrooms trying to get a sleep between calls. One of the ways we look at this in the industry is thinking about fire station zoning. So as I mentioned, what we're showing here is the hot zone. That's usually where, the gear is stored, the apparatus vehicles are in. So we really consider that more of a dirty purpose space. I'm not saying that it's completely dirty, but that's the way we would define it. And then the safe zone, being in the green, shown in this, is really your living quarters. That's expected to be a clean space away from any type of carcinogens and toxins that may be on the equipment. And having a transition space zone in between those creates that compartmentalization between the air, right? We do it with mechanical systems to where we can separate those zones. The safe zone is more of a neutral zone when you come to mechanical. The transition zone has a slight positive pressure. That way we can push the air towards the doors. And then the what we call the hot zone here would be exhausted, both by direct capture exhaust systems for the vehicles, for the diesel fumes, as well as the gear storage room being its own isolated area, allows us to exhaust that directly, so that the contaminants and off-gassing of gases that's caused by PFAS and turnout gear isn't mixing with different air locations and zones throughout the station, creating a more healthy environment. As Natalie mentioned earlier, one thing that we can do in fire station technologies is to look at how we develop lighting technologies throughout a fire station as well. Being that we want to provide a sleeping quarters that has very minimal distractions, whether it be noise, sound isolation, as well as limited to lighting factors. We create a very low light level during the evening hours, so that when you're awoken by an alarm, it's not a burst of energy or a jolt. There's very much so prominent studies that talks about cardiac arrest and other sleep deprivation um, uh, 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 when it deals with sleep deprivation and how people respond to being woken very suddenly. So having lighting levels that can work towards a certain level from being a slight level, then when you get to the transition space of having a little bit more ramped up level, and then by the time you get to the apparatus bay or the truck room, having full light levels. So you're able to gain that circadian rhythm that we naturally have with our body's senses to light, allows us to have a safer transition between being woken for a call to actually responding. So it helps both uh, the first responder, but it also engages us to be more alert and allows our bodies to naturally engage into those responses. So a little bit about the new site design. The previous site design, as you saw in the front approach, was very limited, open before the actual traffic and oncoming public. So setting those front doors back a little bit further allows for a vehicle to come out onto the apron before heading into the traffic lane. This allows everybody to see the sight lines, see the lights and the sirens going off on the vehicle before even entering into the public right away. Creates both safety, obviously, but then it also creates an area where they can exercise a vehicle fully out on that approach versus what they currently have in the firehouse today. With this new design and us being able to demolish the existing station, we're able to mirror the functions a little bit more to where we can get full pull-through bays, which is a very huge advantage for the fire industry. Instead of them having to take up traffic to back in a vehicle back into the station, now they're able to turn the corner onto Main Street and come through the station on a return drive on the backside of the station to pull the vehicle truck back into the bay. A lot safer, easier to navigate versus backing up, and allows for the next call to be easier and responding to, because there's less time taking that time to back up into the station, which takes ultimately 2 people to start with. The other thing is that we wanted to create the same inviting space that we have in downtown North Liberty with the parklet spaces. So in the northeast corner, we're showing the relocated monument that you see currently out in front of the station, but also creating a corner where it's inviting, creating that parklet sense with the rest of the context of downtown. As well as having privacy and secluded areas for the firefighters for respite, as well as an outdoor patio space that would be separated from the rest of public. Parking moves towards the east side versus having it discontinuous from the east and the west in the new design. So that really focuses on staff and shift parking together, as well as continue to use street parking for volunteer basis as well. Little bit overview on the proposed floor plan. So as I said before, there's really those 3 zones that we look at. There's the truck and support space of the apparatus bays. There's this interstitial transition space where we have airlocks that we create between the apparatus bay and the living quarters. And that's for that compartmentalization. So we have that shown here as those orangish color blocks in the center of the plan. But I want to focus a little bit on the actual areas in color here. So the administration or the headquarters portion of the station is in the northern part of the plan here, and shown in a lavender purple color. We focused really on creating this inviting open office space that you would walk into, the fire department being welcomed, as well as having administrative staff and offices nearby. So there's that efficiency between tasks. A large conference room for conferences up there in the corner, as well as a separation between administration and the living quarters of the station, so that you have that noise separation as well. One of the big functions about a firehouse and modern firehouse design is looking at ways to incorporate training. So training is highlighted in red here. What we focus on is a large training room. So they can talk about fire operations and fire response training. They could have those meetings with inside the station in this large training room for that opportunity, as well as the physical side of looking at a standalone fitness room that actually will serve as our storm shelter area for the firehouse as well. Chief, do you have anything you'd like to touch base on those areas a little bit more?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I know we're really working hard to your point earlier about state of the art, right? Right now, as our particular workforce, we have full-time, part-time, pay-per-call. They can't always be here at the same time, much like in the volunteer days where we would have a training night and they would all come. Um, this training room will be designed so that we can record trainings, we can edit those, we can push those out electronically if it's more of the didactic type of training, right? That's certainly important. When it comes to the workout facility, again, one of the ways we recruit and retain is the ability to provide especially our pay-per-call members, opportunities. Why should you continue to remain here, right? Having a gym like this, much like we have in our current facility, only smaller in our current facility, what we hear is that a lot of our volunteers love this. Love the ability to come to the fire station and work out. So in order to entice them to be here more, so that when the bell goes off and we have more people here, these kinds of things are very important.
Thanks, Chief. To look at the solution for decontamination that I mentioned earlier, over on the left-hand side of the plan, there's the orange block over here that I want to talk about a little bit. There's an individual gear storage area. This houses all the clean gear that's stored there between fire calls. If someone is not on call, that's where their gear is stored. At the beginning of the shift, they come in, get their gear, set it next to the apparatus vehicle so they're ready for a call. If there's a structure fire, they come back to the station and it's laundered. So we have its own setup of a decon laundry area just to the bottom of that gear storage room. So they can wash boots, gloves, the whole turnout gear, as well as they have individual washer and dryer for station clothes as well. So not only is there an opportunity to take care of that turnout gear, but also on some calls you may have emergency medical call that deals with bodily fluids. So being able to launder that separately from turnout gear as well as separately from the residential side of the firehouse is really important to take care of those contaminants as well as being mindful for a procedural process to go through decontamination before entering back into the firehouse. So on the firehouse side, across the apparatus bay, we have two decontamination shower rooms where after a structure fire, first responders can shower off, make sure they're showering well, change into some clean station clothes, and then transverse back into the actual clean space of the station. So it's part of this procedural process that is a cultural thing as well as a industry standard within firehouses now that's required to have those facilities in place for the first responders to be able to utilize. Separate from the administration and training areas, we have the living quarters, which is shown in the teal. So on the first floor, we have a day room as well as dining kitchen that's an open concept. This is very efficient so that it keeps a flow of the space. And that's your most communal spaces within the firehouse, being able to sit around the dining room table, talk about the daily chores or routines, as well as being able to talk to one another. There's a big camaraderie within side occupants of the firehouse that's very important for the culture for fire departments. To move on, the second floor is highlighted for sleeping quarters. So we have a number of bunk rooms on the second floor, as well as individual restrooms and showers. Each bunk room is individual, and so are the shower rooms as well, to have inclusivity and privacy. The fire industry has changed over time. We do have female first responders in the industry today, much like opposing to what it was in the past. So making sure that we have individual areas where that's included privacy is very important. But as I mentioned, with the sleep deprivation and a goal to alleviate that, individual bunk rooms to where it's noise isolated from each other, as well as the rest of the firehouse, is important to keep that opportunity for very restful sleep. And then up in the corner, you can see a residential laundry room as well. So again, laundry for turnout gear and station clothes that are contaminated are separate. Uh, and then the residential laundry really focuses on clean linens environment from the bunk room area. Individual lockers for each occupant are out in the main common area. That way, if there's a shift change, there isn't anybody that's disturbing somebody by coming into a bedroom or nearby to where they're making a bunch of sound and disturbing somebody who may be still sleeping on the shift previously. Natalie, you want to talk a little bit about how the Public Works project ties in with the new station?
Yeah, so as we were going through and looking at the different things that we were studying on the existing building, um, initially we were hoping to salvage the apparatus bay on the existing station. Um, we studied that ability. The existing station is primarily wood structure. So it became cost prohibitive to actually raise the height of that area and reinforce what we needed to at the existing building. So when we started looking at demolishing the building completely, it ended up breaking down the construction into two phases. One phase would be the addition or the building addition of the main operations of the fire station, and then the apparatus bay would remain as is and then be replaced once the new station operations component was online. This created some concerns about continuity with service. It also created some concerns with the schedule and how long construction was going to take of the station. So one of the ideas that was proposed was the potential to temporarily relocate the fire department so that we could demolish the entire building, the entire existing building at one time. In order to do that, we needed some place for the department to temporarily operate out of. The two projects, the two boxes in blue that you see here, were our projects that were proposed to be happening or starting a little later in the year. We figured that we could expedite the timelines on those to actually alleviate this concern. So we are rolling in the additions at the parks facility as well as at the brine and water maintenance shop, so that the um, water maintenance folks can actually temporarily relocate to the parks building, and then the fire department can actually temporarily relocate to the water maintenance shop. So the nice part about the water maintenance shop is it does have multiple pull-through bays that can house, and they're sized such that they can house the vehicles from this fire station. So that's pretty huge. And then it also allows station operations to stay in like on one site, so that we don't have to kind of split up those activities throughout other buildings. And I know, Chief, you can probably talk a little bit more about what your guys' plan is, like to transition, and how day to day will kind of run during this transition process.
Yeah, so I think kind of to echo what you said, our entire fleet will sit within the water maintenance shop. Because of the size of those bays, we'll get all of our trucks there. Our plan is to, we have to figure out exactly, you know, what from the current facility goes into storage, what are we going to need for that year and a half construction process. And then, you know, also then how are we going to maintain living quarters, right? And that's going to be another effort and some sort of either rental or purchased facility, like a manufactured home that we would bring in for the time being, and then we would resell. We've talked about using Conex boxes for storage. But the nice thing about that is once we're done using those for storage, those shipping containers, we can then use them or repurpose them for our training facility because we are in need. We would like to expand that facility a little bit down the road as well. So a lot of these things are, we're trying really hard to make really high quality decisions so that we can capitalize on some of these things down the road. As far as administration goes, you know, all of these city departments work very well together, and we would likely relocate our fire department administration to the water department training room. We've already talked to IT, we've talked to the water folks, and for the time being, while we're operating out of this facility, our administration would locate down there. That way we're close to the trucks, we're close to the crew. If we have subsequent calls or if we have a call that requires additional apparatus, administration can run over there and there won't be a delay. We considered maybe putting administration in City Hall, but now you're talking a mile away from this facility. And so it just makes a lot more sense from a practical standpoint that we're close to the equipment. So, you know, will there be some hiccups? Will there be some issues? Most likely. But they pale in comparison to, you know, the light at the end of the tunnel and the facility that we're going to gain in order to not only provide a better service to the community, but also to protect the firefighters today and in the future.
Yeah, so like Chief said, like one of the biggest things is just to make sure that that's like making sure that the emergency services run continuously and as smoothly as possible, and trying to keep everyone together. So
I think, Natalie, the other point that I think I can make is that this wouldn't be the first time a fire department has done something like this, right? I mean, I know in our area, when the floods occurred in Cedar Rapids, the Cedar Rapids Fire Department had to do it. When Iowa City decided to rebuild Fire Station number 2 on the same property, they did something like this. They went to their Public Works campus and operated for a year. So it's not like we're completely inventing something here. We're talking to those folks and trying to learn from their transition times and work within, you know, that. And we are unique. Every fire department, just like every city, is unique. And so we'll have our intricacies, but, you know, we can really springboard from some of their advice as well.
Well, perfect. If folks in the audience have questions, there's a little Q&A box that you can start typing those into. Andrew, Natalie, Brian, can we just do a quick review of what the timeline for this project is for folks?
Yeah, certainly. If I go back real quick onto a slide, you know, we're looking at a bidding period starting next summer for the firehouse itself. And then the anticipated construction timeline looking at fall of 27 and running through fall of 28 is the construction timeline we're anticipating currently.
yeah, and so the water maintenance building and the parks building, essentially they're running along at the same time. So we're going to be doing the design for those concurrently. Our plan for that is that those would go out to bid early this fall in order to get the construction of those up and moving and ready for the fire station to make that transition. hopefully around this time or a little later-ish next year. So.
Well, wonderful. Any last thoughts that you folks want to provide? We don't have any questions from our audience. We'll of course continue to talk about this. I think we should probably at least acknowledge that part of the reason we can do this is thanks to the voters approving the local option sales tax last November. That's going to really help us get these projects done. And we're going to use some of that funding, which starts to come online in July. So Andrew, if you'd switch that one last slide then, I think, for me. Perfect. So here we go. If there are overviews of all of these projects at northlibertyiowa.org/projects. That's my name, Nick Burgess. You can email me or call me if you've got questions, and I will either get you an answer, or if I don't have it, or we'll figure out the answer together. You can email me at nbergus@northlibertyiowa.org, or give me a call. That's my office line, 319-626-5756. Don't forget to sign up for updates at northlibertyiowa.org/subscribe. Thank you so much for joining us all week as we talk about our city projects, and don't forget to don't hesitate to reach out. We do have remarkable rigs coming up, and we will do it in front of the old firehouse. If you want to go in and climb up some firefighter stairs, trip up them, visit the training room, kitchen, hallway, multi-purpose room. I'm sure Chief Plotz would be happy to show you that as well. And anyway, thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of everybody's day.
Thank you.
Thank you.